Long before they ever took off, Lion Air Flight 610 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 were doomed. Those are the findings of an 18-month U.S. House investigation that identified fatal flaws in the way Boeing's 737 MAX jets were designed, how its manufacturer hid the issues from customers, and how the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration failed to sniff them out.
They were the horrific culmination of a series of faulty technical assumptions by Boeing's engineers, a lack of transparency on the part of Boeing's management, and grossly insufficient oversight by the FAA.
In its report released on Wednesday, the U.S. House Transportation Committee said the plane maker prioritized profit over safety. According to lawmakers, Boeing made false assumptions about a key safety system called MCAS. It compounded that problem by hiding information not just from customers and regulators, but pilots too. The FAA missed these issues because it allowed Boeing employees to conduct their own safety checks on behalf of the government, creating conflicts of interest. The 737 MAX is Boeing's best-selling plane ever. It's been grounded since March 2019, which has cost the company an estimated $19 billion. But officials expect to get the aircraft certified to return to service before the end of the year. That could reverse a precipitous slide in Boeing's share price, which has dropped more than 50% this year.
The aviation sector, like the travel sector, the tourism sector, all of those share prices have been really deeply impacted by the pandemic and that fallout. But no matter how you look at these headlines, there has to be answers to these questions, and they're really regrettable.
Lawmakers are set to propose reforms that would improve the FAA's oversight of the industry. They're hoping that with these changes, design faults will be identified and fixed before it's too late. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
Well, for more, let's go to aviation analyst Alex Macheras, who joins us from Doha. Welcome back to the program, Alex. Now, this, as we know, is a damning report that basically says Boeing knew that its 737 MAX aircraft was defective and chose to cover it up in order to get it up in the skies. Do you believe there's any reason at all to doubt the findings of this US investigation?
Good evening. Well, as you correctly say, this is one of the many reports and investigations going into determining the action that should occur following the two deadly 737 MAX crashes. And today's report is incredibly damning for Boeing. And that is because it directly pins the blame on both Boeing and the FAA. It's extremely critical of both. For Boeing, it says that the fault is an array of failures with the design and the development of the 737 MAX aircraft itself. And for the FAA, it says that it failed in its oversight and its certification. So the combination of the two also led the report to explore the relationship itself between Boeing and the FAA. And that was concluded to be dangerous, essentially saying that the FAA is in the pocket of Boeing. And this is how this aircraft was able to enter commercial service, join airlines around the world, despite extremely obvious safety flaws, which we know led to the two fatal crashes.
Yes, as you say, this investigation says the FAA was perhaps too cozy and too willing to please Boeing and basically take Boeing at its word when it came to the 737 MAX aircraft. The FAA has responded saying it's taken this investigation on board, but do you think there needs to be a root and branch overhaul of the aviation regulator in the United States?
For a long time, there have been serious questions about just how close the regulator in the US, the FAA, and Boeing, the largest manufacturer of aircraft, are. And ultimately, the 737 MAX incidents that have killed 346 innocent lives, first occurring in a Lion Air incident in Indonesia, followed by a few months later, an Ethiopian Airlines crash just outside of Addis Ababa. The de-alignment of regulators occurred soon after that. So where the FAA are in the US, Europe were actually very quick to remove themselves from the equation and say that they will want their own investigation. They will require new standards that perhaps the US may not require following this outcome. So we're going to see a de-alignment there between the regulators. And we saw this in the immediate days after the Ethiopian crash. The US were actually one of the last countries in the world to ground the 737 MAX. The rest of the world had grounded this aircraft over safety concerns, which we now know to be true. And this whole report really centers around the MCAS, which is that cockpit software that was able to put the aircraft into a nosedive that couldn't be overridden by the flight crew. And some pilots were also unaware of this system ever being present in the flight deck or on this aircraft. It really is a series of failures with a variety of stakeholders, but now US Congress say that there will probably be further legislation implementing new safety measures before this aircraft returns to the skies, which it intends to by the end of this year.
That's right, and we know test flights for the reworked 737 MAX have already resumed in the United States. They'll also resume in Europe and other places. But do you think the findings of this report might deal yet another blow to Boeing's hopes to get this workhorse back into the skies?
Absolutely. Boeing has suffered immense damage to its reputation. They have airlines that simply do not want to take these aircraft. And now we are in a global pandemic where I can't think of a single airline in a position to be able to introduce new aircraft into their fleet. So it is incredibly damaging for Boeing. It will continue to be damaging as more is revealed. And we're discussing just one of the investigations. If I take you back to a leaked memo from 2017, a senior Boeing official said, quote, "This plane is designed by clowns who are in turn supervised by monkeys." This is a memo that followed a wider investigation into the safety culture at Boeing, which again is under its own investigation. So it's a very turbulent time for the manufacturer in what is a global pandemic, the largest crisis in the history of flight itself. It's truly unprecedented.
It sure is. Okay, Alex Macheras, aviation analyst in Doha, thank you again for joining us.